Anytime.
Shreveport City Council is now called to order. I'm calling on Corporal Van Ray to lead the invocation, and I ask that Ken Kraft will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Corporal Ray.
Okay, let's pray. God, our Heavenly Father, first and foremost, we thank you for your mercy and your forgiveness. God, we ask that you open up our hearts and our minds so that we be receptive to whatever you guide us to do today. God, we ask that you protect our families as we're away from them and protect us as we go on our way after this meeting. We ask this in your holy name. Everybody said, Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody please place the hand over the heart and face the flag as we recite pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Taylor. Present. Councilwoman Fuller. Councilman Nicholson.
Present.
Councilman Butcher. Councilman Fleury.
Here.
Councilman Green.
I'm here.
And Councilman Bowles.
Is there a motion today?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second on the minutes of the previous meeting. Have any discussion? And if not, then we'll vote, please. Okay, and that paper's ready now. And that motion minutes.
Councilman Butcher. You want to vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Taylor. You did it all through?
Okay, that motion carries, approved. At this time, does any council member have any awards, recognition, distinguished guests to
I
be
do.
recognized?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Vice Chair is recognized.
I would like to call Ms. Barbara Sellers to the podium, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You can speak about the gun violence meeting that is going to take place on the 18th.
Yes, ma'am. We are working out the parameters and the details of how we will approach the meeting on the 18th. This is the next steps phase from the position statement being released on Wednesday. We will have some meetings subsequent to the meeting on Tuesday to ensure that it's a safe environment and conducive for all those that attend to come and share their concerns with those in attendance. And we'll be working out those details in the next coming days.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other council member? Councilman Green?
No. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Mayor Perkins?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank our partners at United Healthcare for the donation of $2,500 to SPAR in support of the regathering event for our seniors. The event was held on last Thursday, and we are grateful to United Healthcare for stepping up to make it such a great event. Next, on Thursday, we will have a groundbreaking ceremony for a $36.5 million improvement project at the TL Amos Water Treatment Plant. This event will begin with an 11:30 a.m. press conference on site at 3205 Blanchard Road, and if your schedules permit, I will hope to see council members there in attendance. This week, we will hold the first of several town hall meetings across the city to hear citizens' concerns about 4 topics: public safety, infrastructure, economic development, and technology. The first meeting will be this Thursday, May 13th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at C.E. Byrd High School Auditorium. We also have a survey at www.shreveportla.gov asking citizens to rank where they would like to see the expected federal dollars coming into the city spent. Next week's meeting will be held at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, May 18th at Broadmoor Presbyterian Church, and 6 p.m. Thursday, May 20th at Mamie Hicks Recreational Center. Also next week, on Wednesday, May 19th, our Financial Empowerment Center will celebrate its 1-year anniversary with an open house event at 9:30 a.m. and I would like to encourage everyone to join us in celebrating this asset within our community. At this time, I would like to recognize Drew Mouton. Drew, stand. Our new Director of Economic Development. Drew comes from LSU Health as a former Chief Innovation Officer, where he most recently started and led many of LSU's pandemic response initiatives. We are proud to have him as a member of our team, so could give him a round of applause. Thank you, Drew. Mr. Chairman, I also have in attendance some board appointees. If you would like to have them come up at this time, we have Ms. Rachel Jackson and we have Mr. Bill Roberson of the MPC.
Proceed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Rachel Jackson.
You know it's more to you than that.
Yes, I do. Sorry. Well, actually, my name is Rachel Jackson, and I actually chair of several committees. One of them that I'm particularly proud of is the Community Prayer Circle, where we get input from the different communities and people give the input on what they want to see going on in the city, and also with prayers that they're requesting. I do a lot of chairing of committees for my community, but I also assist in helping others in other communities. So I've also went to different meetings that I've been to with the neighborhoods, and what I would really like to see is to be a part of beautifying the city and to get what needs to be done.
Okay. Any questions? She's going to the MPC.
Ms. Jackson, thank you so much for your willingness to serve on the MPC. I know how much you have a heart for this city, so I look forward to you being there.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackson, can you quickly tell us a little bit about the event you're throwing at Valencia Park as well?
Well, actually, I've been doing it for the last 10, 12 years. I do a community event where everyone comes out, the seniors, the children, and we give an event for, actually where we are promoting unity in the community. And it's actually a time to get the peace in the community and get everybody together. But what we're doing, we're actually promoting wellness, which we have a basketball tournament. We do the bingo for the seniors, and the children are actually where we feed them and give them games to play as well. And I've actually done that for about 10, 12 years actually, along with other events that I do in the community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson, thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve. You got some pretty big shoes to fill. I think Ms. Bessie did a pretty good job every time I was ever in front of the MPC. So you got some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I'm Bill Robertson, 214 Leo. I want to thank the mayor for nominating me for service to the Metropolitan Planning Commission. I want to recognize Jackie White. I used to work with her at Foster Campbell's office. I just retired after 18 years working at the Public Service Commission on Texas Street. We had 24 parishes and we were regulators, regulating the utility industry. So I guess regulating land use is the next step for me. And I love the city and I want to serve. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Bill. We appreciate it. I want to personally thank you for what many times that you've helped me on Saturday and Sunday from Foster's office, helping the constituents who are desperately in need of talking to someone and getting some action. And I always said that y'all were the best as far as taking calls and helping constituents. A person coming into public service could certainly watch and mentor your office over there, and they would learn how the proper way to be a good public servant. So I thank you for coming over, and the mayor made a great appointment in your name, and so I look forward to you serving and wish you the very best. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you did for me.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fleury. Thank you very much.
Thank
We'll
you,
see you
Mr.
next
Robinson.
time.
Bill, the last I heard, you were planning to spend retirement on a motorcycle. but I'm pleased you found time for the NPC.
Well, those plans are still
Still in place.
somewhat in place.
Good.
I'll just have to work them around my MPC meeting schedule.
Very good.
Thank
So-
you, Chairman.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. I appreciate it, and I like Chairman Flurry. Anytime I've ever called y'all's office, you've been very receptive and very quick to respond, so I appreciate it. I also will say you have big shoes to fill as well with Mr. Del Colvin's shoes, which I think he served 16 years on the MPC consecutive since the Hightower administration. So I think you've got very big shoes to fill as well. So, but thank you for your service and look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson, for your willingness to serve.
Ms. Taylor? Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks for today.
Okay, Mayor, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions or concerns for property standards? Councilman Bowman,
Yes, sir.
do you have any today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody? Mr. Harris is here representing that department.
Mr. Harris, would you tell them about the property standards sweep that will take place on Thursday morning at CC Antoine Park, please?
On Thursday morning, we will be doing a sweep starting at 8 o'clock in the Allendale area. And I know Councilwoman Taylor will be present. And what we're doing, we're asking the citizens if they have anything. We will have dumpsters on site, and our guys will be going through the community picking up old car tires. So if you have anything that you need to get rid of, bring it to us, and we'll take care of it.
Thank you. The only things what things are we not accepting?
Medical, paint,
Okay. So anything that you have, Allendale Lakeside, that you need to get rid of, with the exception of paint and medical supplies, please bring them to the site Thursday morning at 8 a.m. to CC Antoine Park. So it's the opportune time for you to clear your clutter and bring it on in. Tires, refrigerators, furniture, whatever it is that you have, clean it, bring it on to CC Antoine Park at 8 o'clock on Thursday morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Okay, Mr. Green, you're being a little too quiet down there. Please, let us, you okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, does anyone need any information on the revenue collection, finance, anything on that? How about the city attorney? He's rocking and rolling down there with surety bond report, so. No, sir. No public hearings today? All right, Madam Clerk, is there any legislation to be added today?
There's not.
There's not, okay. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir, we
Oh,
do.
okay, the vice chair will control the time.
Please make sure that you state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Michael Carter.
Mr. Carter, before you speak, may I say this, the author of the particular legislation has indicated that they're going to pull that today, so I just share that with you,
If the
okay?
resolution is going to be pulled, I defer my time and let you get on with your business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Mr. Wade Joseph. Good afternoon, Mr. Joseph. Mr.
afternoon,
Alex.
So basically, I just want to present this set to y'all.
State your name and address.
Wade Joseph. Address is going to be at 4864 Sandtrap Circle, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71107.
Okay.
Can I continue?
You can continue.
So basically, I just want to present this check to y'all, giving my contribution and showing that the love that I have for this community and this area. And also, I want to see if it's possible that I can give y'all like a business proposal. I can email it to y'all, or I can have it placed on your desk or whatever. Seeing a few areas that are needing sanitation. I've heard, like y'all discussed it earlier, about the trash pickup, like tree limbs, tires, couches, so forth. Basically, I feel like I would be a great candidate to be contracted out for this job because I was working for the city of Bossier for 5 years in Public Works Department.
That's great.
So,
Okay. Is this, may I say
Go
something?
ahead.
Is this something, council, that maybe the mayor could help him with? Would y'all agree with me on that? I want to try to help him if can. Maybe you need to speak to Mr. Whitehorn over here, and right here with administration. Go there first, and then let's see what they have to say, and then it could come to the council. I'm not trying to cut you off, I'm just trying to help you get into the right position here. And so I would suggest, Madam Vice Chair, that you go and see Mr. Whitehorn and the mayor's office there, okay?
yes, sir.
And you still have your check presentation are you presenting that to the city?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to say, for Mr. Wade, he called me up as a concerned citizen for the city of Shreveport, not coming up here to complain, but to invest into the city. So I definitely want to be a part of what he's doing for the city of Shreveport.
Right.
And I told him I'll definitely be a part of what he's doing today.
That's
so
right.
he's not coming up here complaining for the city. He investing in the city, and that's what it's all about.
That's
so
right.
I just wanted to come up here and support him with it.
That's right.
Awesome. Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Be sure to
I
sign
want
the
to
check.
accept them, though.
We could talk to him all day, but I mean, the mayor's not gonna need to make it happen.
Rudolph Glass?
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was just trying to.
Good afternoon, Mr. Glass.
Good afternoon. Rudolph Glass, 1735 Alderson Avenue. I came here today. I have a question. I would like to know if any of y'all can tell me what this is.
You got me.
This is a crack pipe. I found this crack pipe when I was doing the cleanup the other week. Now, I found this doing the cleanup about maybe 2 or 3 houses down from my house. I've called and complained on that particular house several times, gunshots, and all type of things, okay? But one of the most troubling things is that you can go in the stores in our community and buy these. Now, if I was caught with this in my car, my truck, by the police, I could be charged for drug paraphernalia, okay? But they're selling this stuff in the stores. If y'all take the time, go to some of these corner stores, and you will see what they sell in them, okay? And a lot of people in the community know that there's drug activity going on either in the store or around the store. And we talk about the shooting. If we want to deal with the shooting, there's a lot of more things we need to deal with. We can go meet all we want to, but some things that could be dealt with without meeting. And this is one of them. There needs to be some type of order that people cannot lord around the stores, whether they want them around there or not, okay? These vacant lots where they gather, it's another place, okay? Some things could be done. So I would be there, it's 18th, I would be there. I would have something, but this really needs to be taken care of and dealt with. You have a lot of people get arrested for these pipes, and they go right back to the store and buy another one.
And so those are found at corner stores?
At corner stores, yeah. They have all types, sizes, colors, and all that.
Mr. Glass?
Yes.
So they're selling this drug paraphernalia in corner stores near your house or just all around town?
Really all around town. I don't understand how these people get away with it. I mean, if you go to any of them, even I was up at Super One on Juella, they have a speaker in front of a store playing music with all kind of vulgar language on it. These are the things that they come to our community and do. And they feel like they can do it because we don't care or nobody's gonna do anything. One of my main things is when I call to try to get something done, I'm always switch around to different people because nobody knows who's supposed to deal with it.
Well, I think Chief White, that, is this something that maybe ABO or somebody like that could help us with? Because if this is happening, we need to get this under control.
Yes, sir, and if I would, I worked narcotics for 16 years. It's perfectly legal because they're sold as soda pipes. It's not illegal unless it's been used in the act of packaging, possessing, or utilizing drugs. There's a number of products that are used illegally that are sold legally, and you have to change the law.
We couldn't put a tax or something on it.
We even tried making an arrest. They used to sell something called a starter kit that consists, it used to be a glass and a rose years ago. It was a glass container. You break the ends off, pull the rose out, put your Brillo pad in it, put your rock in it, and light it up. And they gave you all the pieces except the crack. We made a number of buys, brought to the attorney's office, and they said, no, this is all legal items. You can't prove it's going to be used for narcotics. So we've dealt with it for years. A lot of the head shops, a lot of the gas stations do sell items that we know are used for illegal narcotics, but it's technically not illegal in that form.
That's concerning.
Is there anything that you all can address, or does it have to go higher?
That's what my question was. Is it a state
Is it a
issue?
state issue, or is it just
or is it something the city
can do?
Well, I think that you can be more restrictive in city law, and I don't want to get out of my realm, attorney's opinion here, but the issue is that it's only drug paraphernalia if it's used for drugs. And when I buy it out of the store as a soda pipe, soda straw, excuse me, what they call it, it doesn't have paraphernalia. It has not been used to smoke crack or meth, and I'm not going to get remnants of that drug off of it. So in that condition, it's being sold as a legal product, because everybody uses a straw in their Coke can, right? Same thing with packaging bags. That people package narcotics in. Those are legally sold because jewelry owners utilize them. So they're sold for jewelry. They're used for narcotics. I think it's more of a state issue personally.
Okay.
So
It's something we're going to definitely look at.
Councilman Green, so Chief, you're saying that it would be legal for us to ban
Mr. Glad.
soda
Don't
pipes to be sold in the city?
No, I think you could do it in cities. You can be more restrictive, is my understanding of the law. I think the city ordinance could be more restrictive than state law, so I think you could.
Okay.
But again, I think what you're opening the door to there is, just because I have one doesn't mean it's being used for narcotics. And the reason it becomes drug paraphernalia is because it's used in the sale, distribution, possession, consumption of narcotics. I don't want to get into the whole.
I know an example. There's cities across the country that ban plastic straws within the city. So, just an example.
Mr. Letier to look into it.
Yes, sir, I'll look at it.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Chief, those other kits that you were saying, do they still sell those in the store?
Oh, yes, sir. No, I could, yeah. I could buy 50 of those right now.
I've often thought, why would somebody put a plastic rose in a glass tube? I never could
Rose
figure
in a
that.
bottle.
I guess I know now.
There's several businesses in the city that they make their living off selling products that are used for illegal purposes, but they're sold under the, they're sold
Something
legally.
else.
Good, that's informative. Thank you, Mr. Glass. for bringing
City
it.
Thank
attorney
you.
will give us a.
Thank you. John Miles.
Good information.
Hi, my name's John Miles. I live at 1332 Madison. And I come here today, well, as that guy elaborating off what he just said about the Arabs, everybody, the Arabs, they come over here in our community, and we in the black community, and they don't care anything. They just in there to make money. They don't live in the community. You know, even Joe Biden, the president, he said black people, the descendant of slaves in America, we the lowest people in the whole country. We don't have anything, even in Shreveport. White folks own all the buildings in Shreveport. We don't own nothing. Our schools are terrible. We don't have anything. Streets are terrible. We need our reparations because we're descendant of slaves, so we can build our own schools and teach our kids where they won't be killing each other every day. Because that's why, because we are very angry and we are oppressed, and that's why we kill each other every day, black on black crime, robbing and killing. All that's because we got a lot of pressure on us and we're not really no American citizens, really. You know, they say we are, but actions speak louder than words. And I just want y'all black people, y'all descendant of slaves, politicians, to talk to Joe Biden, the president, and tell him that we need monetary reparations and property. You know, we can get that as well. So, because anything you, Mayor, Adrian Perkins, you say is going to help black people with the police department, more policemen and all that, that ain't going to stop nothing. That's going to continue on to the day I die, unless we have our own schools where we can teach our kids what they really need to know, algebra, calculus, trigonometry, all that. Black people don't even know what reparations are. So that just goes to show y'all that y'all white schools ain't teaching our kids nothing. And that's a fact. They don't know nothing. They don't know no algebra. They don't know nothing. And that's why they killing each other. And everything else is bad, because we are in poverty. We are impoverished. I mean, can y'all understand that? Okay, so if y'all understand that, I want y'all to, you go to the citizen meeting in Washington, D.C. Now, you need to advocate for black folks to get their the descendant of slaves to get their reparations. And that's going to solve everything. Everything y'all do, whatever y'all say, y'all going to help black, that ain't going to work, no matter what y'all do and say. Only thing that's going to help black people is they get their reparations where they can open their own schools up and teach their kids what they really need to know.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Miles.
we need our streets fixed too. Madison,
Mr. Miles,
Hearn,
your time is up, sir. Mr. Miles,
and Murphy.
your time is up.
We need that done. You know, we citizens too. You know,
Sir, your time is
taxation
up.
without representation.
Thank you.
We need
Thank
our
you.
streets fixed.
Thank you.
Ken Craft.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me to recite the pledge. That was a welcome honor. All members of the council. Ken Krepp, 157 Archer Avenue, Shreveport 71105. Mr. Miles, this paragraph's for you. In this third paragraph of I Have a Dream. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the Negro is sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society. Okay, that was 63. So that's been 58 years. So 158 years, really. Major Perkins. Oh, Mayor Perkins, page 14. I thought you got promoted to 04 because you're Major Perkins in the article to the left of my sales tax article. And I thought John might have promoted you. I catch the little things. The sales tax, what I sent y'all. Gosh, you're right. I heard you say city's about to pop. It has popped. It is Jiffy Pop. Congratulations, Mr. Broussard. You got Nazima to come. Amazon backwards. I call him Nazima. Pretty good for just getting hired.
Mouton.
Mouton. Okay. I get the names wrong, but that's a good hire. We need economic development. That's one of the things for which we can vote. This sales tax, don't get too excited about mining and wholesale material. The dollars are small, the percentages are huge. But I'm gonna follow up this with a story for the Focus this Friday on the 14th to give a little perspective. You notice grocery and other food stores about the same. You gotta eat whether you're locked down or not. But we're gonna do better in the next 2 months because April collections reflect March sales. And I was told to stay home for the census March 18th last year. So we're gonna continue to do really well. The only thing about even, about 1,100 was liquor stores. So liquor's flat. And it's 2.75%, and it really brought in 13.7 something million. And speaking of 2.75%, that's the same percentage I've recommended in the same article to give city employees pay raise. More if you can, but we can afford that much from these collections. And juvenile justice, I'm going to inquire. I don't know if the city has ever considered it. I don't know if it's legal. The parish does it, but we might want to look at that. And in 2 weeks, we might want to do something to remember George Floyd. It will be the anniversary. In Broadmoor neighborhood, as the mayor said, a week from tonight. And don't forget your ethics, financial disclosure reports. If you're elected or appointed, you got until Friday.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Craig Lee. Craig Lee.
Craig Lee, 1112 Prospect Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. Today we had the great opportunity of introducing Mr. Eric Quander, and I filled out a request for him to speak as well, so you should have him laid out as well, Councilwoman Taylor. He came in from Los Angeles to speak about the future of recycling here in the city of Shreveport, and he gave a powerful presentation at our Tuesday morning breakfast this morning, so I'll let him make his comments as he sees fit. But I did want to hit on the Crime Prevention Summit that we're going to have next week. My organization, LACE, NAACP, and PIPE, we will be offering up our agenda, our game plan for the crime prevention next week. A lot of times, you know, the gentleman who just came before, all this doom and gloom about Shreveport. I made a post, Councilman Fleury, last week, and in the post I talked about multiple shootings and killings in upscale malls. And I talked about murder after murder. I talked about murders on interstates, murders in schools. But guess what? None of those murders happened in Shreveport. But they did happen in Atlanta, Georgia, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas. So guess what? This happens throughout the entire United States. It's not just Shreveport. So this whole illusion that jobs is going to eliminate murder and jobs are going to eliminate homelessness, that's a lie. Because at the end of the day, what you have is a spiritual and cultural decay that is pervasive throughout this entire country. Amen. And until you address that, nothing else is going to happen. Now, we have some things that we're going to introduce, but there is a point of reference that has to be dealt with, and we are not dealing with that. Because you can go to Houston right now, you can find gobs of homeless people in Houston staying on the bridges. He just came from LA. They got a better economy than Shreveport. They got tent colonies all throughout LA. These things are not just based on economics. It's a spiritual issue, cultural issue, educational issue, economic, social, political. So if you're looking at this from a one-dimensional standpoint, we'll never figure this out. This is not just about law enforcement, police, and it's crazy. The citizens are going to have to be involved, so I'm glad that we're going to have this discussion, but I challenge the citizens, especially those who are troublemakers, negative troublemakers. I'm a good troublemaker. But I challenge them to come to the meeting with a plan instead of rhetoric, so that we can help grow and move the city forward.
Thank you so much.
Very good, very good.
Mr. Eric Quander.
Good afternoon. I am Eric Quander. My address is 6473 Cholla Avenue in the beautiful city of 29 Palms, California. I'd like to first thank the City Council for having me as your honored guest, and Mr. Lee and Mr. Jones as hosts to me in this beautiful community. My son and I, Turtle sitting over there, we're on a bit of a national tour here. I own Quander and Son Construction and Recycling based in my community. I've built my business one can at a time. My time here in Shreveport, although short, has been quite illuminating. This is a great city of hope. As far as I'm concerned, unlike other ethnic communities in our nation, black people are the only ethnic community that have been denied an industry upon which to garner the finances to build community. Our money. Now, the gentleman that spoke, a couple of people before me, made mention of reparations. There are some black Americans that believe that that may happen. I'm not one of those people. I'm much more of the mindset that we live in the greatest country on the planet, and that black people helped build this country the first time around. Joe Biden recognizes that we're on the cusp of another change in our nation, rebuilding the infrastructure. I propose that black people help rebuild this country this time, except this time we'll get paid for it. Now, how do we do that? By cornering an industry, the recycling industry. I've built my business one can at a time, collecting plastic bottles and aluminum cans. I've come to this city to identify where I want to build my business. The sustainable energies and technology industry will be a multi-trillion-dollar industry within the next several years. We in California are experiencing that. We are experimenting with alternative ways of utilizing energy to help maintain the population that is quickly evaporating, as well as to prepare ourselves for the future. It is a part of my vision that Shreveport may be able to serve as the export center of aluminum beams for the entire world. Aluminum beams are going to be the bones of all future buildings around this globe. My thought is I'm going to collect aluminum from New York to Shreveport. It will all wind up in Shreveport, where it is my intention to procure a processing facility and begin to export those aluminum beams. Now, the side industries in which will occur from that industry are innumerable. You get other products. We will create jobs. We will redo the roads of Shreveport with recycled rubber.
Mr. Quander.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, our time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
your time is up.
I'm here in town. I'm here for dialogue. I have business cards. I'm going to stick around, but I'm off to Atlanta. They want to hear what they can do to be involved in this. And then Richmond, and then Harlem, New York. We're going to pick 5 cities. I want Shreveport to be our home.
Thank you so much, sir. Marvin Muhammad.
Marvin Muhammad, 2808 Hersey D. Wilson. Just some very short comments today. First of all, I believe I would be remiss to not to speak about the great weekend that the city of Shreveport has just had. I see Shreveport, if you will, and Councilman Fleury, you might be the only one that might have a recollection of this. I don't know, but
Probably so.
I see Shreveport as the 1988 World Series, Game 1. It was the Oakland A's versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it was the bottom of the ninth, and it was 2 outs. And the score was 4-3. Well, the Dodgers was down to their last at bat. Well, Tommy Lasorda, he did the brave thing. He pulled Kirk Gibson, a man who had a hamstring in his left leg and his right knee was busted. But he called him out off the bench. He put him in and he ran the count to a full count. And lo and behold, on the 8th pitch, he hit a 2-run homer out of the park and won the game. And the rest of America, as he pumped his fist around the base and won the game, that changed the total direction of that series. Mm-hmm. The Los Angeles Dodgers eventually won the series in 5 games. And that's where we are with Shreveport. We've been limping around the bases, but just now, Amazon, as a member of the Chicago Parish Industrial Development Board, I'm very familiar with the dialogue, with the conversation. I want to thank City Councilwoman Taylor for our conversations, because although at that time we were, of course, bounded by non-disclosure agreements, so we can speak publicly about it. I also want to thank the administration. I was on a call when I personally heard the mayor stepping up and saying that he was willing to do, because there was a gap on some of the things that we want to do to help bring Amazon here, and he jumped out immediately and said that the city was willing to do whatever needs to be done. So I also want to encourage us, if you will, when the governor was here, and I might need 30 more seconds, Councilwoman Taylor. When the governor was here, he said something. He said that in the state of Louisiana, we had 126 LED certified sites. Mind you, just 1 year ago, there was 113. So in less than a year, there's 13 additional LED certified sites. What does that mean? That means that when communities, that when municipalities invest in infrastructure, then we have opportunity. District A is glad that LED invested those dollars, because now we get a chance to go around the bases and actually begin to win the series. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marvin, are those Southern colors?
Ma'am?
Are those Southern colors?
Dennis.
Dennis Nicholson.
Yeah, Dennis, yes, sir. The closer for the Oakland A's. He's in the hall. He's in the league.
I remember I used to be a sports writer.
Yes, sir. Well, I thought you was a little younger, so I didn't want to pull you into that. Yes, ma'am.
Are those Southern colors?
Ma'am?
Southern colors. SUSLA, Southern University colors that you're wearing today.
You're trying to do a cross between.
No, this is. Well, you know, being alumnus of both of the Southern University system, and of course being an alumni of the university where the most famous exit in the state of Louisiana. Everybody knows this one. Exit 81 is world renowned. So
time is up.
Yeah.
Sammy Mears. Sammy Mears. Time is up.
Sammy Mears, 1901 Centenary Boulevard, apartment M110, Shreveport, Louisiana 71101. Here comes the funny moment. Why couldn't the astronaut book a hotel on the moon? It was full. Now, why did Cinderella get kicked out of the baseball game? She ran away from the ball. I should have known. I thought, Grayson, you would know that. Now, from the ridiculous to the sublime. There have been too many accidents happening in Shreveport, and recently it was reported that a person had run a red light on Uri Drive and another street, and what I heard and saw on television, that there was a censored camera that was at the intersection and caught this incident. Why must people continue to do this? The same thing can happen downtown or over in the Highland area or anywhere here in Shreveport, and this is just ridiculous. Once again, the people and myself have requested for sensor cameras to be installed in the Highland area and downtown where this nonsense will stop like a red light as it should. In Highland area on Stoner Avenue, Jordan Street, Herndon Avenue, Olive Street, Southern Avenue, Fairfield Avenue, Line Avenue, Cresswell Avenue, and Highland Street and Centenary Boulevard really do need them at those corners. Also for all of the downtown streets just as well, and I couldn't name every one of them if I wanted to. I know that I've asked this before. If Kings Highway is to get these sensor cameras on Shreveport-Barksdale Highway, and they can have them, please help both the Highland area and the downtown area too. Our city engineer will hopefully take a look at the situation and listen to what's being said about the situation happening. The Highland area and downtown areas could really use the cameras, so please help us. And by the way, Levette, I hope you enjoyed that last joke I told about the stars and the false teeth. When they come out at night.
Look, I had to write down the astronaut one, okay? The full
Okay,
moon.
you want me to reread it? Should I reread it?
Go ahead.
Very well. Why couldn't the astronaut book a hotel on the moon? It was full.
Excellent delivery, too. Thank you.
I knew you'd like it.
Chief Warburton. Just for correction, the meeting on the 18th would be at 12:30 or 11?
I think it's set at 10 o'clock, Skybox.
It's
on
still
May
at
the
10
18th.
o'clock? Okay.
May the 18th, 10
Okay.
o'clock. The meeting that on Thursday, it will be at 12:30.
Okay.
In
thank you.
preparation for that.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay, we have no executive appointments being considered today. There are no items on the consent agenda for introduction of consent items to be adopted. Madam Clerk, will you proceed with the regular agenda legislation?
Resolution 39, authorizing a request to be made to the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources, Louisiana State Mineral and Energy Board to seek public bids for an oil, gas, and mineral lease involving the property located in Districts A and G and described herein, and to execute the lease for certain mineral interests owned by the city of Shreveport, and to authorize the mayor to execute any and all documents related to the intent of this resolution.
Discussion. Mr. Mayor, for this particular,
We need a motion.
I'm sorry. We need a motion to discuss? Yeah. Motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? This Councilman Vice Chair Taylor has the floor.
I really need to get some more information regarding this. So do you know this company where you can set up a time that we can meet to discuss?
Yeah, I'll get Patrick. Is Patrick in the room? Yep. Patrick will shoot you an email to set up a meeting with the company.
Okay.
Motion to postpone.
So, second.
Motion to postpone, second. Any discussion? Then let's vote. Motion to postpone passes 6-0.
Resolution 53, authorizing the mayor of the city of Shreveport to sign a consent of assignment by GEP Haynesville LLC of an oil and gas lease to Pine Wave Energy Partners Operating LLC.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bowman. Any discussion? Then let's vote. '53 is 6-1. Passes.
Resolution 58, a resolution whereby the mayor is making a recommendation to the city council for its approval regarding the amount and type of various insurance premiums, and to authorize the mayor to execute a payment to the agent of record for the purpose of binding insurance.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Then let's vote. And that passes 7-0.
Resolution 59, authorizing the mayor to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between the city of Shreveport and Crime Stoppers of Shreveport, Inc., and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
They have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Councilman Bowman seconds. Any discussion? Then let's vote. And that passes 7-0. Approved.
Resolution 60, authorizing the use of certain equipment by the Shreveport Bossier Convention and Tourist Bureau for the 5th Annual Red River Balloon Rally.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second, and there's any discussion? Then let's vote. And that motion passes 7-0.
Resolution 61, to commend and congratulate the AmeriCorps Seniors University of Louisiana at Monroe Caddo Bossier Foster Grandparent Volunteer Program.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Then let's vote. And that passes 7-0.
Resolution 62, recognizing May 22nd, 2021 as National Maritime Day and to encourage citizens of Shreveport to celebrate this observance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Then let's vote. And that passes 7-0.
Resolution 63, to support House Bill Number 121 filed in the 2021 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature relative to the Shreveport Police Department.
Motion to withdraw, and I also have.
Second.
Motion and a second. Withdraw. Any discussion?
I'd like to have some discussion real quick.
Okay.
The original intent of this was, as Public Safety Chair, to give the chief an extra opportunity to possibly go to 12-hour shifts. There's several hurdles that have to be jumped over before this could ever happen. So this was not, I think there's some misunderstanding out there that if this was passed by the city council today, that the police officers would immediately go to 12-hour shifts. I just want to make that clear. That's not what this is for. This is basically just saying that we supported a bill that is at the legislature right now that has made it out of committee, and basically just saying that it gives us the opportunity, if we so wish, to change the schedule of police officers. But from what the chief has told me, in order for any changes to happen, it would have to go back to the voters to vote on it, and it would have to go to city council for approval. So that's all it was, but I think there's been some misunderstanding about it and some information that may not have been accurate. And so I think it's probably best for us just to withdraw this piece of legislation for right now, and let's just see where the chips, fall with the legislature.
Okay. Any other discussion? Then let's vote. Vote. Tabling.
You table or withdraw?
This is to
withdraw.
Is it table or withdraw?
Withdraw.
Withdraw, okay.
Withdraw.
Mom? And that passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, will you proceed with the introduction of resolutions?
Resolution 64, selecting the Inquisitor as the official journal for the city of Shreveport for the period commencing July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Resolution 65, selecting the Times as the official journal for the city of Shreveport for the period commencing July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Resolution 66, approving the budget for the Caddo Shreveport Sales and Use Tax Commission for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021. Resolution 67, authorizing the mayor to execute a surface and subsurface servitude and easement agreement affecting 457.82 acre tract of city-owned property with Atheon Energy Operating LLC. Resolution 68, authorizing the mayor to execute a surface and subsurface servitude and easement agreement affecting 113.8 acre tract of city-owned property with Atheon Energy Operating LLC. Resolution 69, authorizing the mayor of the city of Shreveport to sign a consent of the assignment by GEP Haynesville LLC of an oil and gas lease to Pine Wave Energy Partners Operating LLC. Resolution 70, authorizing the mayor to execute certain documents and instruments relative to the subordination, amendment, and assumption of the loan and mortgage relating to the United Jewelers Lee Hardware Project. Resolution 71, authorizing the mayor of the city of Shreveport to execute certain documents and instruments relative to a consent to assignment of lease by Shreveport Renewal Limited Partnership to New Shreveport Renewal LLC.
All I need is a motion to enter.
So moved.
Okay, and now, Madam Clerk, will you proceed with the introduction of ordinances?
And a second.
Huh?
You also need a second, Mr. Chairman. I didn't hear that.
Do we
so-
need a second on that? Okay.
Yes.
You did second? Okay. Second on council second.
But no vote,
No vote.
okay? Got it. Okay, introduction of ordinances.
Ordinance 70, amending the City of Shreveport, Louisiana 2021 General Fund budget, appropriating the funds authorized herein. Ordinance 71, amending the 2021 Metropolitan Planning Commission Special Revenue Fund budget, appropriating the funds authorized therein. Ordinance 72, to amend certain portions of Chapter 26 of the City of Shreveport Code of Ordinances relative to the architectural and engineering selection process. Ordinance 73, amending Section 38-31 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Shreveport relative to inoperable vehicles. Ordinance 74, to revise Chapter 78, Article 4, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places, Construction, Excavations of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to construction, excavation, and bores in the city public right-of-way.
Okay, motion is second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We need a vote on that? Okay. Madam Clerk, proceed with ordinance of second reading and final passes.
Ordinance 54, to add a new section 50-135.4 to Chapter 50, Article 2, Division 5 of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to criminal storage of firearms. And there is one amendment. Amendment 1, this amendment prohibits leaving a firearm in an unlocked vehicle between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. It reduces the maximum fine from $1,000 to $500. It provides an exception for a person who reports a stolen firearm to the Shreveport Police Department within 48 hours after discovery of the theft, and it changes the effective date to October 31st of 2021.
I'll move for adoption of the amendment and request discussion.
Okay. Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bowman. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Councilman Bowman and I brought forth this legislation because gun violence continues to be a problem plaguing our city. Just in the past 2 weeks since the council's last meeting, we've had too many shootings to count. Like all of you, I receive an email notification, and they just seem to keep coming day after day, night after night. Two of the victims in the past 2 weeks were a 9 and a 7-year-old in their own homes. The legislation I initially proposed would have required persons leaving handguns in vehicles to secure those handguns in a locked container, a glove box, a lock box, the trunk. This legislation would have been perfectly consistent with the National Rifle Association's own advice regarding how handguns should be stored to keep people safe. The legislation nonetheless generated some considerable controversy. There were concerns about the impact that requiring handguns to be stored in secure containers in cars would have on law-abiding citizens, and out of those discussions came Amendment 1, which I hope the council will momentarily adopt. If adopted, this amendment would change the legislation and simply require anyone who leaves a firearm in a car during overnight hours to lock the car. You might think, why is this necessary? The answer is that every year in this city we have hundreds of guns stolen out of cars, almost 600 in 2020 alone, and many of those guns, perhaps hundreds in some years, are stolen from unlocked cars. securing a weapon, not leaving it where it can be easily stolen and used in a crime, is basic responsibility for a gun owner. If this legislation passes, we will have fewer guns stolen from cars, and fewer of those guns will be available for use in violent crimes. For that reason, I urge and request my colleagues to support this amendment and to support the legislation as amended. Thank you.
Now,
Go ahead, yes, sir. Yes, sir, go ahead.
let me share with you a real life experience. Several years ago, I worked on Ockley Drive. I had my diesel truck cranked. I was leaving work. It was sleeting. I'm sitting there right there at my door. I crank up my truck and I step out of the door of the truck, and I turn my back, and a gentleman jumps in my truck and takes off down to Ockley to Southern. I'm running behind him to jump in the back of my truck. Well, in my truck, I had a 9mm gun properly secure in the back seat of my truck. 7 years later, now this is a true story, and Bill Gooden will verify it. Now, if I'm thinking that scenario right, the officer came out there because within 2 hours, they brought my truck back and parked it on the parking lot. And the officer chewed my tail out. But I thought I had done nothing wrong. She said that more likely they lived right there and were watching me. And so they brought the truck back there so they didn't have to travel far. Well, my gun was missing, and 7 years later, to the date, SPD called me and said they had my gun in property room. I had given them my serial number. I'd done everything I thought I was supposed to do. So, John, I'm having a real difficulty. This amendment, now you got to explain to me this amendment a little bit more, because I was innocent. I did nothing wrong. But under your provision, if I understand it right, I would have been given a ticket by SPD.
No, sir, you would not have received a ticket under the ordinance as amended if the amendment passes. The amendment, Mr. Chairman, would prohibit gun owners and other possessors of guns from leaving a gun in a car during overnight hours and then leaving that car unlocked. That's not something you did in the hypothetical that you heard, the example you shared with us.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Green.
Thank you. Councilman Nicholson and also Councilman Bowden, I understand that something has to be done, but this is not the something, because the guns that's in this legislation, they're not the guns that they are using to kill up people every night and every day. They are not waiting for somebody's car to be open and they go in and slip and get a gun and then they use it to shoot. With this particular legislation, it's going to penalize innocent folk who just happen to forget about, they left the car, left the gun in the car, they just forgot about it. The people that we are trying or need to talk to, they have different guns from these. They have they have guns that's better than the police got. I promise you. I mean, I promise. What happened is, even with me, when they broke in my office, I had my gun sealed in a box. But they got my gun. I don't know who got it. But if, in fact, they use that gun or somebody, it comes up, I'm innocent, but I'm going to get charged for it. Then if you say, well, okay, if you don't put your gun in your trunk, then you're going to get fined. So now what we're going to have is some folk who know where we're putting the guns, And then we're gonna have a real problem then, because they're gonna get a jack and pop the trunk. And you're gonna see a lot of folk trunk popped, looking for guns. So this legislation is great for innocent people. But the folk that's shooting up folk, these are not the folk right here. And so, right now, I have an issue supporting this because some innocent folk are going to be penalized. It's just like sometimes I ask the chief to put the speeding deal out. Well, the folk that's doing the speeding never get caught. It's somebody who's late for work, who's trying to get to work, and they get caught, and the other folk just pass before it happened. And this is how I see this legislation. The innocent folk are the ones gonna get caught. And the folk that we're trying to say, please stop killing up our brothers and sisters, this is not gonna help them, help us with them.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, one second. John, do you have any statistics from SPD? How many tickets they've written last year in regards to stolen guns?
Mr. Chairman, can I, John, you mind if I
No,
jump in
please,
and read
Mayor.
off some
Yes, sir.
statistics?
Please.
And my button is broke. I was trying to tap it. Just this morning, by the way, I went to Southwood High School. I was invited to go and work with their kind of film production class. And our kids are actually doing a film right now, a PSA, to our citizens asking them to lock up their guns. And in that PSA is some very interesting statistics that I'll bring home at the end. In 2016, the Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Statistics said that 90% of firearms used while committing crimes are illegally obtained. 90%. Now let me bring it home a little bit. In the state of Louisiana, 1,212 guns were reported stolen in the last year, second most of any state. And we only got that title by 2 guns, and that was in Florida. We almost were number 1. The city of Shreveport, 558 guns were stolen last year. It's almost unfathomable. 558 guns right here in our city. Now, I know y'all get the same calls that I get from our citizens telling us that this gun violence is out of control. You got to do something. You got to do something. You got to do something. Not only did I spend this morning with our young people at Southwood High School, but I spent this morning talking to Maya Patel's father, the baby girl that got killed at the hotel. I spent this morning with Messiah, the baby that was shot in Illinois Projects, councilman in your district. I'm tired of it. I don't get a vote today. I'm tired of it, but we have to do something. And I commend this bipartisan legislation because they are trying to do something, and Councilman Nicholson has tailored this the most he possibly can to have an impact on our community. So, some statistics and a little bit of a narrative.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. I'm not in disagreement with that. I too was at Southwood, and the one thing that stands out to me is that our students are doing an education campaign on this. And so I think it goes back to what Councilwoman Fuller talked about, is that we need to join collectively to do that education campaign on gun safety as it relates to gun violence and what happens there, and pick up the same narrative as our students are doing. On the sidebar, the guns that are being used in this, we need to be on their tail, the ones who are using it illegally. Because what we're having here is that we don't know how these guns are consistently entering our community. So I see this twofold. So what do we do with the responsible gun owners, and have we taken every step with that? And also what we're gonna do with the irresponsible, illegal gun owners that have these guns that are killing our loved ones. So some way or another, some way we're gonna have to meet in the middle is how I see this. Because I don't wanna penalize the person who has guns, that sometimes may be absent-minded with everything that we have going on in the world. But also at the same time, I want to expend that same energy on how these guns are entering our community, because that's one component. Because the guns that they're stealing, probably 9 times out of 10, are not the guns that we got legally at the gun shop. We're outgunned. So my question becomes, where do we meet in the middle?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Council Butcher.
I think that that what y'all did at Southwood today was exactly the direction I think we should go, and that's with public service announcements, reminding people to lock their guns up. I think that the legislation in the Crime Stoppers that was passed today is another good start to be able to offer rewards for people that have possession of illegal weapons. I don't think that's going to stop the issue, but I agree with what Councilman Green says, that some of these guns that are being used, I mean, I've heard some of the videos of the shootings, and I'm sure you hear it at your house. You've said it before. It sounds like an M16, big assault type rifle, M16 or something like that. So I just I don't want to do anything to put any more burden on the law-abiding citizens. I'm similar to what Councilman Fleury said. I had a gun stolen either from my house or out of my car at Brookshire's, and my car was locked, and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, did I not lock my car? And so I called the police, reported it, did everything I was supposed to do, gave them the serial numbers. It still hadn't been found. But I was questioning myself, did I lock the car or not? Well, about a week later, we were in the car and couldn't get the back door to open, and we saw where they jimmied the door open and took it. So I guess what I'm saying is people are going to get in your car one way or another if they want to. And but I also want to say this, that Councilman Nicholson, I know where your heart is on this, but I just can't support it.
So this reduce. I done interrupted.
Mr. Chairman, well,
Go
please
ahead.
Well, Mr. I understand, as is true with a number of issues that we've considered over the years together, that there are a variety of opinions on the council, but I want to first, in closing, make clear for the public what it is we are voting on, what it is the amendment would do. If this amendment is adopted and the legislation passes, it will be unlawful to leave a firearm in an unlocked car overnight. So if you vote against this legislation, you are saying you think it should be lawful to leave a firearm in a car unlocked overnight. The original legislation was more restrictive. Councilwoman Taylor talked about meeting in the middle. In my opinion, this amendment is meeting in the middle because it is narrowly tailored to address a particular and very serious problem we have in this community, which is that people steal guns out of cars at night by the hundreds every single year. Like the mayor, I followed the mayor at Southwood High School. I read the same statistics. He just cited for the council and for the public the statistic that 9 out of 10 violent crimes are committed with illegally obtained firearms. So there is good, reliable data which shows that guns being stolen out of cars or anywhere else increases violent crime. Another statistic that I would offer to the council and to the city is that in 2020 we had 75 people die by gun violence. 75 people. 69 of those people were African American. So we all need to understand and acknowledge the fact that violent crime in this city, violent gun crime, is disproportionately affecting the African American community. This legislation is incredibly unpopular with my Republican colleagues. I had a call from a former president of the National Rifle Association. I got a stern talking to from the Republican Parish Executive Committee. My only motivation in passing this is to respond in a rational, effective way to the same calls and emails that you all get every week, every month for years. Please do something about gun violence. This is absolutely a step, a modest step, a reasonable step, a rational step that we can take to address gun violence. And for the life of me, I cannot understand the opposition to this legislation. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Green?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Councilman Nicholson, let me explain something. I'm sensitive to my people getting killed, black on black crime. I don't ever want you to think I'm not. What you have statistics on paper. I live it every night. I live it every day. Unlike most of y'all up here, I live in the hood by choice. I love where I live. I love my neighbors. So what you're talking about is on paper. I live this every day. But even living it, I have not given up on my neighborhood. The guns that I hear on a nightly basis, Councilman Vogt, are not little 22 pistols. These are real guns. I ask for covering for my neighborhood. I ask covering for my house, for my city. But for us to penalize real citizens who's trying to have something to protect their family, it's unfair. I know I've invited somebody else to my house to spend the night, but I would let you come to my house and spend the night so you can hear some real guns, not no paper guns. I'm talking about
got
real
him over at
guns.
his house.
I'm talking about, I live in a neighborhood where 2 feet from my house, a man was shot down in his truck and they left his dog. They never found him. I'm telling you real life stories. So I would be the first one, if this was real legislation, to counter that. My vote would be number 1. This is not gonna fix that. There's a difference from a gun that somebody got in their car, that's just for protection, than for this that's going on in our city. There's a real difference, there's a real life experience to hear guns shoot every night and not know which way the bullet go. You just learn how to dive on the floor until everything is cool, and then you get back and you go back to normal. I live it every night. I live it every day. I don't have to look at statistics. So therefore, if this was real legislation to counter that, man, I would be voting for it number 1. I'm not against getting bad guns off the street. I'm just saying this will not fix what the people like me are going through with. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
John, I'm sorry. No, Councilwoman Taylor, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For the record, I believe that everybody should lock their cars, regardless if you have a gun in there or not. You should lock your car as a safety measure, period. The other thing is, of the 69 that you stated, they were probably not killed by legal gun owners of African Americans that are killed. And I'm gonna say it again, till we find out where these guns are coming from and have a real partnership with supporting agencies to find out how we tracking them and how they get exposed and can get guns, because I'm a legal carrier and it's hard for me to get a bullet. But they have ammunition that kills us and kill each other, and they quick to do that. That's a serious issue there. So I'm sensitive to the fact of, I want you to lock your cars. I want you to lock your homes. I want you to put your guns where they need to be legally. But I'm even much more concerned that every day, at some point, or let me say weekly, that there are shootings that occur, that children can't play, they can't sleep, they can't do this, and I guarantee you it's not by a legal gun owner. I'm telling you that it's not. I don't have a problem with us doing it, but I think education and responsibility first is, again, that was discussed, that we need to look at. We need to be tracking where the heck these illegal guns are coming from. Seriously.
John, my question was, how much input in drawing this up, this amendment up, did you get from SPD? Can they enforce this?
Mr. Chairman, one of the reasons that I offered this legislation initially was that Chief Raymond communicated to me what a tremendous problem we have with guns being stolen out of cars. Enforcement was a concern with the legislation as initially proposed, and the concern expressed particularly was that persons who had guns stolen that were not properly secured would be reluctant to call the police and report themselves for violating that ordinance. That made sense to me, and so one of the changes that this amendment would implement to the legislation is a 48-hour grace period for people who own a gun, leave that gun unsecured in their car, and leave their car unlocked overnight. If all that happens and a gun is stolen, if this legislation is adopted, and you report the theft to the police within 48 hours, then you're not subject to prosecution under this ordinance. And so I see no reason to think that the police would have any difficulty enforcing this legislation any more than they do any other law that this body passed. And I'll just say, in concluding my remarks concerning this legislation, that regardless of how this vote comes out, I am very appreciative of Mayor Perkins' support of this legislation. We have not always agreed over the past 2 years about everything, but we are singing from the same sheet of music on this. And look, every decision involves error risk on both sides, right? So if those of you expressing opposition to this legislation are right, and despite the statistic that Mayor Perkins has just provided us with, which is that 9 out of 10 violent crimes are committed with illegally obtained weapons, if we pass this legislation, the only consequence is going to be to gun owners, you can't leave a gun in an unlocked car overnight. And if you do that and it gets stolen and you don't report to the police, then you have to pay a fine. Okay. So that's the cost. The potential benefit is we have 1 or 10 or dozens of people over the course of years who are not victims of gun violence. I mean, Councilman Green, you talk about the kind of guns that are being used in violent crimes. Maya Patel, with whom the mayor, her family visited with them, she was shot by an illegally obtained handgun. It wasn't an assault rifle. It wasn't heavy weaponry. It was a handgun. And that little child is no longer with us and will not live her life, and her family will never see her again because an illegally obtained weapon was used to kill her. That's what I'm trying to prevent here, and I just hope that we can come together on this so that when our constituents ask us, what are you doing within your power about gun violence, we can point to this and say, at least we were willing to make an attempt. Thank you.
Jim,
Thank you. I think that, and I can agree with all comments that were, or understand all comments that were made today. When Councilman Nicholson and I first started talking about this, and I appreciate you doing the legwork on that. It's prevalent. These things happen in each district, I believe, in all districts. I also believe that we have to do something to try to curb some of this gun violence. We don't have the answer. Nobody has the answer. Even though I get asked all the time, but what do we do? What can we do? Nobody has that one answer. And if they did, I think we'd all been up here shouting it today. I believe Councilman Nicholson and I were just trying to come with something, and maybe we could look at it differently. I know the fine, I got some phone calls about the fines was too excessive, or you're penalizing the victims because their guns got stolen. And I get that too. I don't know if it's something that we need to look back at again and go back and come back, maybe lowering the fine, maybe a warning first, or maybe, I don't know. But just, I want to say that I appreciate everyone's comments today, I really do. And I'm from Queensboro, so I live the same thing that you were talking about too, Councilman Green, I understand that. And, you know, even with the fines that we give for yard parking, it's $100. I think that's excessive for some people. So that's why I'm going back and I'm thinking that maybe we should look at it and come back, as Councilwoman Taylor said, that to come to a meeting. I mean, but I think we're close.
We're close.
I think we're close. And maybe if we postpone and come back, and give everybody a chance or the opportunity to come back to where we need to be and then try it again. That's my thoughts.
Yes,
But I'm not against this, you know that.
Mr. Chair, my last comment is, most of cars today, even as old as my truck is, '02, my truck automatically locks. Once I get out of the car, if I forget about to lock it, it locks itself. Two is, if I got a gun in my car, somebody steal it, I'm not gonna tell the police that I forgot to let my car unlocked. I'm not gonna tell them, I'm gonna tell them they broke in it. So, but normally, I don't know, does your car automatically lock? Your car? Which one of your cars? Everybody's car already locked, it locks itself. So therefore, if somebody get in your car, they gotta break in it. So it won't be that you just left it open, because it's gonna lock itself. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Nicholson and Bowman, would y'all entertain the thought of maybe 2 more weeks before we make the final? Or do you want to vote it up and down today? We'll look at if we want to, whatever you want done.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
I'm not against this, Councilman.
I just want to look at it. Can we look at it?
Can we look at it?
Something different.
I just think that there's something else that we can do. I'm not against it.
well,
We're just not there.
Well, let me ask you, Mr. Chairman, if you asked me, and let me ask this question. Is there a member who will commit to supporting this, who's expressed opposition if we cut the fine?
I'm sorry, John, one more
I said,
time.
if we cut the fine from $500 to something less, is there a member who will commit to supporting it? If the fine is the impediment, then that's easy to fix. If the opposition is that members don't want to do this at all, then I'd rather have.
I'll commit, but we're gonna have to, I just want to be sure that the fine is where, because here's what I may know too much, but we got thousands of warrants over there that never served by the marshal. They can't get them all served. These people come in there $500 and they can't pay it, and they just gonna walk, and we're gonna be chasing them through the city marshal. So I mean, have we got it? Is this the best that we can do right here? Is all I'm asking. And Ron, have you looked at this any? This is legislation. You up there?
Chairman?
Yes.
I would support a substantial budget amendment for a robust education campaign.
I would too.
That was monitored for statistics on people actually learning and understanding the importance of locking up their cars before I ever think about voting for this legislation. My issue is not that if I vote against this, I'm saying that it is completely reasonable for people to leave their cars unlocked. My issue is that when you leave your car unlocked, the consequences that you might get your gun stolen out of it. And people need to understand that when they do that, their gun could then be used in illegal activity that could hurt someone in this community. And the other thing I want to say is that there's more than one way to obtain guns illegally other than getting them out of someone's car. And what we keep trying to reiterate is that many of the guns that are being used illegally and obtained illegally are not automatic weapons. No one's keeping automatic weapons on their floorboard or the semi-automatic weapons that we're talking about that we're hearing at night through all of our community. The 100 rounds that went off in the 1800 block of Clanton Street at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever guns were popping off on Herndon Street in the 200 block. It wasn't the guns that people are keeping on their floorboards and forgetting to lock the cars up. education and actually tracking those stats the way that Lafayette did, I think will go a lot further than us just making knee-jerk legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me, Mayor,
Mr. Chairman,
let me just share.
I was just gonna ask, can I just have Chief Raymond come up? Because we actually do get intel briefs on the type of guns that we're stopping people and finding in cars.
Okay, Mayor,
as well.
let me just say this, though. Look, when we started the litter program, the very first, we went on, there was a big billboard company here in town, and I won't call their name, but it begins with an L. Hey, they gave us $10,000 to put, and I'm just saying, they might be willing to give you some type of, they did in Southern Hills for Mario and I.
Yeah.
They did a billboard for us to say, lock your car. Lock your car.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm in full support of an education campaign. I'm in full support of us doing something. Don't think I'm trying to push the needle in any particular way. But again, I do want to provide up-to-date information. That's why I talked about statistics.
Yeah, sure.
We have
Mayor.
Chief Raymond here who can tell you guys. We conduct operations, by the way, with state police, ATF, multiple times a year. It slowed down a little bit last year because of COVID. And Chief Raymond can give you very detailed accounts of the type of weapons we're finding. And I can tell you, just 2 years ago, the number per car was about 6 out of every 10 cars they're stopped. That number is going up and up and up. The weapons they're finding is becoming like more and more military style weapons as well. So there was a couple things said. I would want Chief Raymond to clarify what we're seeing when we conduct these operations in our city.
Yes, sir. And I'll try to be brief. If I'm not careful, I could ramble about this topic for a long time. Well, not necessarily ramble. I could provide a lot of information, but I'm going to try to be succinct to the question asked. A variety of weapons, both handgun and long gun, AR-15, M4, all types of handguns are being used in the shootings and violent incidents we see on a weekly basis. All types of weapons are also being stolen from unlocked vehicles. Now, it is less common for long guns. When I use the term long gun, I'm referring to shotguns and AR-style rifles. It is less common for those weapons to be left in an unlocked vehicle, but it does happen, and it's not uncommon. It's just less common than a handgun. And I can tell you, and I like to say statistically, so I'm going to say it again because it's only fair to myself. Last year, there are only 3 categories from memory that went up. Total Part 1 crime is still at a historical low, whether you want to hear it or not. But the 3 categories of crime that went up last year and continue to stay up: homicides, aggravated assaults and batteries, which are predominantly being fueled by shootings, and theft from auto. And the theft from auto piece is what, 20 years from now, somebody much smarter than me is going to do a research paper and try to tie in why was it those 3 categories. From my position, I think that it's got some relevance. People are pulling on car doors to try to take weapons out of vehicles that those weapons could then be used on the black market. Now, whether the person that steals it is using it or whether they're selling it for $50 in the corner, I can't tell you. But illegal weapons stolen from vehicles are being used in violent crimes in the city of Shreveport. They're being stolen from our cars and they're being stolen from other cars. It's hard for us, we don't collect data in that manner. And speaking of what Councilman Taylor said, there is some technology that we have available that I'm not going to speak too much about. We are able to track that, but we're just now creating a unit to be able to do that. So we'll be able to provide more accurate information as to where the weapons and ammunition is coming from in the future.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Councilman Grant?
No, I don't have. Councilwoman, if you would develop that legislation, you got my vote. I'll vote for that. Of course, for this today, my vote is going to be no, but I support that you and Councilwoman Taylor was talking about. If y'all could put that together, I'm on board.
We might just put your name on it too then.
Okay, I'm cool.
Mr. Chairman, I told Councilman Nicholson when this first popped up on the agenda, the same exact thing what Councilwoman Fuller said. I said, give it 10 months, 12 months. Let's look and see what the results of any type of PR campaign we could do, legislation with the Crime Stoppers, which was your idea, which was a great idea. And I told you that if you tried that first, I would support any legislation you put up, and I still mean that. But I want to try this first to see if we can can do this through education, because it's been proven, I've read in other communities, that education really helps. And, you know, it's a ritual at my house every night. All 3 cars that we have, honk, 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 honk. We hear it at 10 o'clock at night, right before we go to bed. We need to get people into that. But I'm with Councilman Green. If I have a gun stole out of my car, I'm gonna say, hey, if there's a law like this in place, and I don't know how you're gonna enforce it. So I just would prefer us to really do a robust campaign, like what Councilman Fleury said. We've talked about this. Billboard companies may donate us billboards. We may get some airtime donated. I'm sure that KTAL and KSLA and KTBS back there would love to donate us some airtime for something like this. So, you know, I just think that this is a very it's a very touchy situation whenever you're talking about anybody's rights, even right or wrong, being taken away from them. But I will 100% support any legislation that you and Councilman Bowman bring forward. Maybe not any, but but I will support within reason legislation that you bring forward if we at least try to do something else. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I call for the vote.
Okay. Any other discussion? Then let's vote.
So what's the vote? What's the vote?
This is to adopt the amendment.
And if you vote no, that's to unadopt.
Okay, and that fails. 2-4.
I move for adoption of the legislation. Somebody will need a second if we're gonna have a vote. Thank you.
It died, so it's over.
Yeah, just kidding.
All right. Any discussion on that? Let's move. Okay, fails. All right. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance 57, amending the 2021 Community Development Special Revenue Fund budget.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Let's vote. And it passes 7-0.
Ordinance 58, amending the 2021 General Fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. And it passes 7-0.
Ordinance 59, amending the 2021 Community Development Special Revenue Fund budget.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Let's vote. Passes 7-0.
Ordinance 60, amending the 2021 Capital Projects Fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Let's vote. Seven zero. Passes.
Ordinance 61, levying and authorizing the collection of a tax of 8.8180 mils per dollar on all property subject to ad valorem taxation within the city of Shreveport, Louisiana for the year 2021 for the purpose of paying principal and interest on the outstanding general obligation bonds of the city of Shreveport.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Let's vote. Passes 7-0.
Ordinance 62, levying and authorizing the collection of various taxes totaling 17.770 mils per dollar on all property subject to ad valorem taxation within the city of Shreveport, Louisiana for the year 2021, and the amounts and for the purposes described herein. And Mr. Brown has a clarification on the fact sheet on this one.
Yeah, there's one correction, or I would say clarification. I did see a typo for the finances. The revenue collected from this millage is going to be $27,680,190, opposed to what's currently listed. So, just want to read that into the record.
So moved.
Second. Okay, let's vote. Passes 7-0.
Ordinance 63, levying and authorizing the collection of a tax of 9.040 mils per dollar on all property subject to ad valorem taxation within the bounds of the Downtown Development District of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana, as defined by LARS 33:2740.38 for the year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Then let's vote, please. And that passes 7-0.
Ordinance 64 to revise Chapter 34, Article 2, Division 3 of the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Code of Ordinances relative to provisions for flood hazard reduction.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Let's vote. Passes 7-0. Motion on 65, the mayor has agreed that we can postpone that.
Motion to postpone.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Then let's vote for postponement. Motion to postpone has been approved.
Ordinance 66 to amend various articles and sections in the City of Shreveport, Louisiana Unified Development Code relative to corrective changes, oversight, or missing items.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Then let's vote. And that passes 7-0.
Ordinance 67, zoning case number 20-146-C, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the City of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located at the intersection of Rayville and New Bern Lane, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, from R112 Single Family Residential to R110 Single Family Residential District.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Then let's vote. And that passes 7-0.
Ordinance 68, zoning case number 20-185-C, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the City of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located on the east side of North Market Street, approximately 240 feet north of Deer Park Road, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, from C2 Corridor Commercial District to C2 Spud Corridor Commercial District, Small Planned Unit Development District.
So move.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
Could I have an explanation of what this would do, please?
What it's going to do is that it is, or Mr. Clark, do you want to explain that?
Yes, ma'am. This was a application for a liquor store. And one of the most interesting things, and I shared this with the Caddo Parish Commission, was that this was the first time that we had a liquor store application that there was not widespread opposition to. This is 3 buildings up on North Market that are in pretty deplorable conditions. And these 3 buildings will be demolished and replaced by one structure. And in order to be a liquor store, it was within 200 feet of a residence. And in C2, you cannot have a liquor store, and that's why it's being classified as a C2 SPUD, Small Planned Unit Development.
This was also attended by the neighbors within the community. This is not essentially a new liquor store. It's already an existing liquor store. There's essentially just redeveloping.
And the neighborhood came out in total support, and that's the first time in my 26 years that I've seen a neighborhood come out in total support of a liquor store. So it's a very good project, and the relationship between the owners of the property and the neighbors was something to be very proud of at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Mr. Clark, you may want to sit there for just a second because I might have a question. I'll call it back.
Ready to vote?
You call the vote, Councilwoman? Type of.
Ready to vote?
I voted.
Everybody voted? Okay, 7-0. Passes. Okay. Now, no table legislation. We have one alcohol permit appeal today.
And Chairman,
Madam Clerk?
the city attorney's office has recommended that that be postponed.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
What did you say?
So moved to postpone.
Postpone? Okay.
It's reset for May 24th.
All right, motion to postpone and second and discussion. Would you please vote?
That's for the next meeting, you say?
Yes.
Motion to postpone approved, 7-0. We have no property standards, ZBA, MCPC sealed, appeals to consider today. Are there any appeals, Madam Clerk?
There are none.
Okay, any reports from officers, boards, and committees? The clerk's report?
We received the following letters of appointment from the mayor's office on May 6th. We received one for Mr. Bill Robertson and Ms. Rachel Jackson to the MPC. And on May 7th, we also received a letter of appointment for Ms. Jasmine Cooper for the position of Assistant City Attorney.
All right. Mayor Perkins, do you have any more communications?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I just had a couple questions for Mr. Clark real quick.
Mr. Clark, I got a couple of questions for you.
So the hot topic in southeast Shreveport right now is the new Brookshires. How did the MPC, I tried to read and watch it, but I couldn't. How did that go?
The MPC board voted unanimously for approval.
Does that, the biggest concern I'm getting, and I'm assuming it's coming to us after this, right?
Yes.
The biggest concern I had was the entrance going into, across from Norris Ferry Landing subdivision. Been getting a lot of calls and a lot of complaints. I'd like for you and your staff and myself to meet with their homeowners association to try to see if we can come up with something. And they also were asking who commissioned the traffic study, who commissioned that traffic study.
And I think that was something done by Brookshires. I'm not totally sure.
But we will validate that,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
findings of that. Okay. So if you don't mind, whoever's working that, let's try to get together and set up a meeting with the homeowners association, because there are about 400 homes in Norris Ferry Landing that are gonna be directly impacted. I'm 100% for it, for the store coming in, but I need to kind of at least let these people try to figure out a way that might mitigate some of the issues that they're gonna have.
And I think, Councilman, that after the neighborhood participation meeting that occurred, where, if you recall, it was basically 50-50 in support and
Yeah.
in opposition, and those were some of the concerns that were expressed at that meeting. And the purpose of these meetings is to introduce development to the neighborhoods in order to gain input from neighborhoods of some of their concerns. So it's my understanding that Brookshires is looking at this very carefully, and we will be getting back, but we'd be more than happy to facilitate a meeting to
That would be
have
that
it
would be
discussed
great.
in detail.
I'm 100% for the development. I think it's going to be great for our area, and I think most of the people I've talked to agree with that, but they're worried about the traffic issue.
Understood.
When will this hit our agenda, do you think?
It was approved at the last meeting, so it should be forthcoming.
First of
Council
June?
should have it, yes.
Will it happen the 1st of June, do you think?
For the final vote, yes, but if they get it to us, it'll be on our next agenda, the last meeting this month.
Okay. I just want to make sure we have plenty of time to discuss this.
We will get on it, I won't be here tomorrow, but we will get on it first thing Thursday morning. Try to
Thank you,
coordinate.
Mr. Clark. I appreciate it.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, and I just had one other
I
thing.
always try to be respectful to my elders.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One other thing, I want to thank Mr. Daniel and his group for, we had a forced sewer main. It's really not in the city, but it affects the city. On East Kings Highway this weekend, and they worked around the clock to try to get, that corrected, and did a great job. I think it was only about 8 hours that it impacted. So I want to thank them. 10 hours, I was pretty close. So I want to thank y'all and thank you for keeping me up to date on what was going on. And I got absolutely zero complaints. So, thank you.
Co-signed because that affected the lift station at Stoner too.
Yeah.
I appreciate the communication.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, sir.
In regards to the meeting on the Saturday at noon, there in my district.
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna be in town, I'm gonna be out of town. Will somebody from MPC be attending that?
Yes, sir. We'll make certain, that's the one on Baird Road, isn't it? Yes, sir, we'll make
On
certain.
Crabapple?
Yes, sir.
I mean, on Kingston and
Francis.
Francis.
Kingston and Francis.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'll come last.
Listen, I wanted to share with the council that as the chair, I have made a ruling or understanding that we're not going to have the work sessions the rest of this year. As long as I'm chairman, I don't think we need it. We'll just do Tuesday on the council. And so I wanted to be sure, as chair, I'm taking that prerogative to say that that's what we want to do.
So
Yep.
moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I had a statement from Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark?
Mr. Clark, I just want to commend you for all of your good work, you and your staff that you all have done. And I just want to commend you and say, keep up the good work. And sometime in late December, I want to get with you on a food truck for my church.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I want to tell Mr. Clark, thank you also for working with me on a few things that I had going on in the district, so I appreciate that. And also to Mr. Furlong, I know I sent you a couple emails back and forth, and I finally got some understanding on it, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, is any other council member?
Just a reminder about the property standards sweep. So bring all of your debris to CC Antoine Park. Dumpsters will be present at 8 a.m. on Thursday.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, would you ask
My
Mr.
next
Furlong to
cleanup
come up?
in Hollywood, we're doing
Mr.
sidewalks.
Mr.
The
Furlong?
sidewalks of Chair,
Wait a minute.
Miss Councilwoman Fuller.
I missed something. Wait a minute. Councilwoman Full, I didn't hear Councilwoman Full, I'm sorry.
My next cleanup on Hollywood, we went and did like the sidewalks from Union to St. Vincent. We're gonna go back with and really clean them up on the 22nd, starting at 8 o'clock.
Somebody need you?
Yes, sir. Mr. Furlong, I just want to get on the record that we on schedule for May.
Yes, sir. Last I checked, which was about a week ago, yes, sir. But I'll check again.
Yes, sir. Thank you so very much.
Yes, sir.
You're going to make a lot of people happy.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, at this time, I'd like to request, they have received a request from the city attorney to go in executive session to discuss the following, Awad Hassan versus City of Shreveport, docket number 626-167-A. Do I have a motion from the
So moved.
council to go into executive session?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
And I have a second, okay, any discussion? Then let's vote to go in executive session, please.
Moved by Green, second by Taylor.
All right, motion passes. So we will now adjourn to the back here in the back room.
Mr. Clark. Let's see real quick.